Holy smokes. If people look back in the history books of this World Championships, or even just within the retrospective of this year, and say that this was the grand finals, just in semifinal shape, I would not fault them. This looked like the number one and number two team, head to head, super close. Hi, this is Vision Denial. I'm Sam. I do dramatic readings of my own personal notes that I take down when watching international League of Legends games. This whole channel is dedicated to that. If you're new here, hello, welcome. Take a step, enjoy your stay. Couple of things to note. My notes are mostly like breakdowns of each event as they go along and what I'm thinking at that moment, as well as like adaptations that each team should be making between games. I'll also be putting down below over here some highlights. The highlights were created by the VCS, the Vietnamese Championship Series. They are fantastic. They have yet to play an international stage in over 2 years now, and it's a little disappointing. Go check them out. Support them. They're fun. With that, it's Damwon versus T1. Come on. It rhymes. It's destined. It's beautiful. Let's get into game one. Draft. Well, given the side selection, Damwon, who has the higher seed, ends up with blue. T1 with red. Granted, I'm pretty sure when it gets to the semifinals, it's not a higher seed, lower seed thing. It's a coin flip. But that just means that whichever picked the sides, T1 ended up with red, Damwon ended up with blue. I'm going to assume that Damwon got the side selection with the rest of the series. So, draft. Well, starting off here, on round one blue side, Damwon banning Aphelios, Nami, and Graves suggests that they're wanting to avoid team fights in general, as well as avoiding sieges. Which indicates to me that they're probably trying to avoid a particular type of team fighting that that T1 is very apt to do. While on the red side, T1 seemed to be wanting to avoid sieging and side lane pressures also, banning the Yuumi, Syndra, and Twisted Fate. Now, I've mentioned in our podcast that like Yuumi, Twisted Fate, and LeBlanc are high priority, and this strikes me as bizarre that LeBlanc was left open given the caliber of both of these mid laners with LeBlanc. And lo and behold, it goes through, and Damwon in their round one picks end up with like really solid solo laners, as well as a jungler that's really strong at controlling early side. And so you got two solo lanes and a heavy indication that they're going to go for skirmishing, whilst T1, on the other hand, end up with the Ryze, Jason, Poppy, which indicates something similar in terms of skirmish, but T1's picks heavily lean into 1-3-1 in the late game stage as opposed to just skirmishing. And it still also gives them the chance to opt in for team fighting depending on how they build the draft later. Now, the round two bans, Damwon banning out Ziggs and Rakan, that usually would help enable a 1-3-1 with the given composition types that the Damwon has picked so far. They don't have the type of wave clear to be able to consistently keep up the 1-3-1, so banning those out helps with that. DK, on the other hand, are focusing on the bot side heavily. Already they recognize that T1's bot lane is their strength in this particular series, or just in general. So banning out the Thresh and Jinx is exactly what they need to do. And then Damwon rounded out immediately with a Jhin Maokai, and then we get champion number 90 on the list as Maokai comes in, and it's really interesting because it's an answer to the Leona that was previously picked, and they talk about how this is a great idea and so on and so forth. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting answer. I don't know how much of an impact it had overall. I did have a lot of pressure overall, but that's aside. T1 eventually round out their draft with Leona Misfortune. heavily emphasizing that they do want to have some team fighting that happens, but usually with a lopside to it. So, with it, we head into the game. Now, Damwon sniffed out a possible level 1 play that T1 would have attempted and end up with a vision advantage because of that. T1 do eventually equalize this vision and end up doing the same equivalent amount of jungle tracking. And with a 3-minute TP topside, T1 get the first blood and end up choosing to take the pace of the game as opposed to waiting out for it. Now, Damwon also chooses to TP bot lane and bait out Owner into making an unwise gank attempt, all the while T1 keep focusing on Khan down the entire time. Now, Damwon are still getting lane matchup wins, which allows them to have a slight lead in the early game, which tends to be a theme during this series. And Damwon's early vision has stronger coverage, but as long as T1 is keeping up this aggression, it's easier for them to not fall behind too far. At 8 minutes and 30 seconds, Damwon have a solid Herald set up, and they secure it with little issue or opportunity for T1 to contest. As we enter the mid-game transition, the pace has been grabbed by Damwon securely, and they manage to gain the first turret and a huge lead for Ghost after securing that first turret. Now, Damwon have a 2.5k lead at 12 minutes. Now, this vision denial in Game 1 from Damwon is incredible, confirming their first Drake and easy map movement. Damwon settle into an easy 1-3-1, and T1 do manage to have some answers in the topside for turrets, and they do end up using Kana to have this Jace create some strong impacts during a lot of the future neutrals that they end up getting. But, they keep giving up the Herald for the tier 1 bot side, and they end up using their TP to stop their tier 1 from falling, but they're making these weird little trades overall. They keep trying to control the map while in a deficit, causing the play towards some very incredibly risky engages or plays. The towers end up falling anyways, not so long after, and so a lot of the resources that T1 are building and using up tend to fall to the wayside, as it looks like they're just delaying things. Now, vision for both sides barely leaves the river. So I talked about how a lot of teams have very shallow vision, but given in this situation how both teams have very strong coverage that barely leaves the river, it has more to do with the way that they both play vision denial incredibly well here, and that's as far as it can go while both are in lockstep. You can see the vision of them moving around as if it's like these little balls just going back and forth, and it's like solid go at understanding how the vision play works. Damwon end up using a very strong Herald at some point, and a clean set of pick secure mid lane and controls for any Drake setup. They have 3 turrets, all the neutrals, and the momentum from T1 starts to slow down as Damwon now has every neutral. Damwon keeps trading up in every particular sequence, and it makes it very hard for any particular momentum, even if they're not trading hugely up. They keep losing out slowly but surely. Now, as we enter the late game transition at 22 minutes, T1 are avoiding 1-3-1s for some reason, and just have solo laners on one side of the map. So they have both Kana and Faker just on the bot side. They're still outmaneuvering Damwon, but they're still behind in gold by 2.5k. And this is the point where Damwon are not ballooning the lead as much as I would rather they have it. And then at 23 minutes and 40 seconds, Kana gets caught, and Carriot taken down leads to Damwon grabbing the Baron and another 2 kills. in very clean and controlled fashion, allowing the Baron and Soul Point to be secured. They double their gold league in just a blink of an eye. And Faker's just in the side lanes, on the top side, playing a Perks cosplay. They get a turret, sure, while Damwon just destroys their mid and bot inhibitor. And then end up completing completing their Baron power play with a 2.7k increase. And this is just an absolute set of control from Damwon, as literally the 28 minutes mark, barely 4 minutes after they kind of got caught, they take the last inhibitor, dive to get 4 for 1, and cleanly end the game. And with that, Damwon go 1-0. 1-0. And to me, I'm just here going like, this is some fantastic and clean play from Damwon. Quick, measured, answers everything fantastically, and had full control of vision and all of the neutrals, or most of the neutrals, that aim for their win conditions. And it's really hard, and I mentioned like there's some weird decisions being made, but it's hard to look at the situation and see where T1 needs to improve or adapt, because part of their approach lacked continual pressure, and they had opportunities for Damwon at any given avenue to keep up their play in win conditions. So it's just mostly a lack of like pacing. They change up the draft to have like a higher pacing or more control or more like proactivity, or more proactive options given to them, then it shouldn't be as much of an issue. But the draft was good on both sides. I have zero issues in terms of the draft on both sides for this entire thing. So anybody who claims that there's one draft that won over the other, it had more to do with which team was going to be more proactive or not. And that was the linchpin in this particular situation. And with that, we head to Game 2, where because T1 just lost, they decide to opt to blue side. Damwon gets red side. For the draft. Now, round 1, having banned Rise, Twisted Fate, and Jarvan, T1 are getting rid of any particular global map movements or dive options. These are strong dive, map movement, things that like would usually try to keep them on their toes. Well, Damwon seemed to really think that T1's bot side is the strongest at this point. They ban out the Yuumi, the Aphelios, and the Lucian, all options that would usually just be super beneficial towards Guma UC, which, fair. Round 1, for the picks T1 suggests over here with the Lee Sin, Lissandra, and Jhin. Granted, Lissandra was picked after LeBlanc. Do keep that in mind. This over here suggests to me that the way that they're trying to approach this game involves a lot of zoning and a lot of neutral objective setups and picks. While Damwon taking some strong skirmish and dive options, Graves, LeBlanc, and Jin Zhao, look to be really hitting a lot of early points of the game. The round 2 bans, Damwon gets rid of any particular split pushing options or any also strong dueling options. Gwen and Kennen being really good at secondary team fighting, but primarily dueling, means that any particular type of dive that you want to do becomes really harder with that, which suggests that they were trying to probably go to the top side of the map. Counter to that, however, T1 are just banning options for Ghost. Ghost likes to play safe in most given situations, which is ironic given what gets picked afterwards. And so banning Misfortune and Ziggs are very safe picks that allow for some wave clear options and some easy long distance pickups as the whole thing goes. Wow. I have words, come on. Now, T1 end up rounding out this draft, crazily enough, after the Draven gets picked, with Rakan Yasuo, and people had a little bit of confusion. Yasuo ended up going topside. This was kind of incredible, and it kind of just shows that, because after that they round that Damwon end up rounding out the draft with the Alistar and Draven, it shows that they were aiming primarily to aim for opposite sides of the map. T1 playing for the top side and Damwon playing for the bot side, as that's where their win conditions were going to go. With it, we head into the game. Damwon get a free invade topside, and T1 have zero information. And in fact, they're given pretty false information by the way that they're moving. The bot side for Damwon pretending to like leash for blue, all in the while they've just lost one of their entire quadrants. Now, eventually, you know, Canyon gets seen on a ward, but it's far too late. The damage had been done from their level 1. Now, T1 at this point in this game are already playing for mid lane control and have a clean dive to get first blood. And as the game slows down into a very slow laning phase, it only benefits Damwon from this, which is really bizarre that T1 decided to opt for it. A faster laning phase would be probably much beneficial to them. Now, they have stronger laners on Damwon, clearly, but their draft also benefits from avoiding a lot of early fights. So Damwon really focusing on getting their early lane resources, not wanting to fight their hero play. They allow just T1 to secure it fairly easily. And honestly, T1 can still use this herald, and they end up doing so to like limit any particular type of like pressure and slow buildup that's happening. But it's still happening. The scaling from Damwon still keeps happening in the background, and it's not great. And despite the early kills that happen, T1 is losing in gold lead from the lane matchups, and then this lack of pacing is becoming a huge issue from the early game. And then I write this out. T1 start to fight topside. It's 1-for-1 in a 4v4 matchup. We enter the mid-game transition, and Damwon end up with a slight gold lead in the head at 500 at 12 minutes, which is not a good sign. Now, T1 eventually get the gold lead back, but lose a second herald in the first Drake, which is not a good sign given Damwon's clean control of neutral objectives. And every team over here is playing on small margins, making little tiny trades with very little losses involved. The control for the mid lane leads to a huge to a fight, and only one kill goes for Ghost, but that nets some 855 extra gold from his passive. But T1 still hold control and end up getting a turret and then the second Drake right after. This game ends up being incredibly close in all aspects. And the clock is ticking for T1 here, as Damwon's composition scales significantly better. T1 ended up still have incredible vision control across the river, but neither team giving much of the chance to have a lot of aggression, or not a lot of aggressive vision with it. And as we enter to the late game transition from the slow mid game, gold, kills, neutrals, turrets, literally all aspects of the game are even at 22 minutes. And this is already bad for T1, who need to be more have to get things done. Now this is incredible to watch, this game, where both teams are playing at their limits and just waiting for the one crack. And as T1 end up winning a 3-for-5 team fight, they get 5 for them and 3 for Damwon. It's so close. And at 24 minutes, it allows them to secure a Drake for T1, but the pace is still not securely in their control. It's either team goes. The fight for mid control is always real. This series is just, you could call it an ARAM if you want, but there's an intention to detail going on here. T1 is overall winning, allowing to get the soul point, while Damwon try to get to Baron bait at some point, which is really weird in this decision, and end up losing the mid turret, and then they get a fight. And at 33 minutes, T1 all of a sudden boosts to a 2k lead, which at 33 minutes doesn't mean much, but given how close these games were, it just shows that there's the extra pendulum swing. It's the biggest that either team has had during this entire game. And yet it is still anyone's game at this point. No team wants to dedicate side lanes at all, because at this point, even though they'll both go on the sidelines. They'll both go to the sidelines and try to like manage the waves in a way that's still allowed to slow push in the opposite direction. But if they push too far, there's a fear of collapse, and they're just trying to avoid that given any particular situation. And then Damwon answer a failed team fight pick attempt. They stop the soul, but as Damwon tries to set up Baron, Owner steals Baron. And then T1 gets a 5-0 and end the game. Yeah, it just ends from a Baron steal. Like, it was a crazy steal. There's no way that should have happened, but Damwon, for some reason, just doesn't stop the contest as aggressively as they should, and Owner gets the steal, and then they lose the game. And with it, T1 go 1-1. And then it means that they also tie in overall games from both teams, as this is the first time that Damwon loses. Well, this is now an interesting tournament in a series. And damn, this was a really, it was a close game, really tense. T1 was playing on edge and on a timer. And, I don't have much I would say that either team needs to adapt on, but they both play super competitively against each other. They know it up. So they have to mix something up. They have to do something super different and play for a higher pace and more aggressive composition to attempt to overwhelm the opponent at this point. But there's not a whole lot that needs to be it's always minor adjustments. But as the series goes on, this changes. Minor adjustments are no longer enough as larger and larger mistakes happen from game to game. And then we head to game 3, where because Damwon lost, they end up getting to choose a side selection and choose blue side. And T1 ends up with red. We start with the draft. Well, they're still targeting the same stuff. If I was to like it from one game to another, yep, it's still pretty much same old with things. Granted, the Graves from Damwon is a little different, but it indicates to me that they still think the bot lane is really the problem here, and T1 don't want to deal with skirmishes as much as possible. Now, the round 1 picks, the Jarvan, Misfortune, and Syndra out of Damwon, indicates that they are aiming for mid-game power in neutral fights, while T1, who end up with Jhin, Ryze, and Jhin Zhao, are playing with wave manipulation and skirmishes. Through the round 2 bans, T1 banning out Leona and Jace, are avoiding any hard engage or also a strong side lane option, which again indicates to me that they're avoiding any 1-3-1 or any type of skirmishes that they don't want to have to deal with. Well, as Damwon do a similar approach. Same thing, banning Gwen and Rakan, they're avoiding a side lane option and a strong engage option. And as we round out to the picks for round 2, this is the first time I'm going to mention I think a draft mistake was done. Because they repicked Maokai, that's totally fine. It was an answer after Kennen had happened, but Leona had already been banned, and so I don't know what the answer was supposed to be. But they also picked Lucian for Khan, which to me indicates that they were really aiming for a 1-4 composition with a strong set of team fighting-ish tools that work on skirmishes when they're picking somebody out, or that works in chokes that can help with neutrals, but there's a lot of disjointedness that happened with this team composition, and it requires a lot of early focus in the top side. While as T1 round out their draft with a Kennen and Zilean. Champion number 91. We're getting close to 92 champions. Yeah, and you. And they end up with a super strong team fighting composition that scales incredibly well and it plays very well extended fights. And as we head into the game, both teams almost clash at level 1 5v5. Literally, it was just looking at the Titanic and the iceberg, just uh-oh, they're going to meet up, and then vision, and they disengage. Jesus Christ. T1 have gotten advantage with solid vision tracking, um, solid vision tracking Canyon, but he still gets a successful gank in the mid lane, which tells me that there's some miscommunication or they're not paying attention. And it gives Showmaker first blood. And Damwon are already with early laning phases advantages need to up the pressure and pace with this now. They just need to go with it. An attempt to do so in the bot side with a sloppy dive trades the kills 1 for 1, and it's both sides are playing towards their win conditions, which is really good. The fact that they end up pivoting again to top side for Damwon and bot side for T1, solid. And the gold ends up being very close, but T1 still have the stronger vision in this early game, and they're forcing dives and picks while Damwon have full control of the top side, are able to control the Herald because of it. They're essentially handshaking things. Easy. Both teams are like, all right, cool, we're just going to do what we're going to do. Damwon are still gaining the better of all of these small trades because of this scenario, and it feels very bizarre that T1 have just allowed it to happen. They end up getting both neutrals, better laning results, and these small incremental leads are making huge differences as we enter into the mid-game. Even if not much is shown in gold. And as we enter to the mid-game transition at 12 minutes, a scrappy 5v5 fight goes 1 for 1 again. Now, Damwon, like mentioned, is gaining incremental small advantages, and this leads to their first turret. And even it looks like it took a lot of resources to do it, it took just as many resources from T1 to defend it. And at the second Herald, T1 hesitate for far too long and end up getting caught out, losing 2 for 1. And at this point, Damwon with 100% of the neutral controls have a strong control of the pace of the game. But, T1 is still looking for picks. They find some here and there, and they're keeping the gold fairly close regardless. And they're never letting go of the momentum of the game so far, or letting it go out of control. Now, T1 managed to find a series of picks back-to-back, taking control of the map, placing vision, and as we enter to the late game transition somehow, the progression may be slow, but the fights are constant. And T1's late game win conditions is getting closer and closer as Damwon have not done anything to answer or stop this progression. T1 trading equal or even a little bit down as they keep scaling is only going to benefit them as we enter 23 minutes and the gold is even. And then it takes another 4 minutes of the same kind of posturing, just from both sides. And then Carrier just decides to engage as a Zillion onto Showmaker Syndra. And they win the 5v fight, going 4 for 1, get the Baron. And now T1 all of a sudden, boom, their win condition hit at 27 minutes. And they get Baron, solid control of the entire game. And even though Damwon get the sole point, they get 3 Drakes, T1 are getting picks and are incredibly efficient with this Baron of theirs. They broke the top inhib turret. Damwon here are still finding some incredible engages, and it keeps the game from losing. And they find strong 3 for 3 at 30 minutes, but it was precarious. It was barely enough to do anything. And Damwon Kia wise just let T1 keep dragging every Drake because they have the soul point. Everything else at this point is just waiting to scale back, which is not. I think they should have tried to fight it a little bit more often, but given the situation they're in, I don't blame them in that situation. Now, they've afforded the time and patience at this point because of the 3 Drakes that they had. The problem is that the time and patience is barely long enough because T1 are hitting critical mass with the comp that they have, who, granted, they do need to end soon. They scale better, but they scale better with a very specific type of engages that they have. They have one form of engage that's solid. And Gumayusi is just speeding around. He's the Flash. And despite the fight looking kind of messy, the gold lead in and of itself, hitting 11k at 34 minutes, means that it makes up for many of the mistakes that are being done by a lot of the newer players. And with the Baron in a huge lead, T1 end up cleaning out the game and have match point at 2-1. Oh, shit. Now, change at this point is needed in the kind of draft and game approach at this point. They can't rely on laning phase alone to gain leads, and Damwon need to play a faster style of play and lean into their ability to make close trades. And I think both teams are starting to realize the intensity on how close things are. One mistake could really cost more than it should. But T1 also need to dial back some parts of the aggression that they have. They seem to be antsy and itching to close it out. We just gotta do it. And they got away with a lot of their mistakes, knowing full well that the gold lead that they had. But oh boy, if the gold lead had been just like a couple thousand less, it could have been bad given that situation. And then Damwon would be at game point. This is shaping up to be a pretty wild best of 5 already. And as we head into game 4, Damwon chooses to stay on blue side. And with their draft, it stays literally the same as game 3. Or not the picks, the bans stay the same as game 3. So, the picks, however, Damwon decided to just take away the Jhin. And with it, create a core strong skirmishing comp, as they have like Jhin, Rakan, and LeBlanc. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is super, super good. The fact that Showmaker has his LeBlanc again, it allows me to understand that they're trying to be playing around neutrals and chokes again. While T1 on their end, picking the Ryze, Jarvan, and Jace, are going again with a very strong topside focus, likely to transition to the 1-3-1, given the type of bot side they pick from it. So, round 2, T1 bans Kennen and Aurelia, which is aiming really much to aim for Khan to help transition their 1-3-1 composition when it comes to that. But the Kennen and Aurelia are also strong team fighters, so it's to help also hit 2 birds with 1 stone in these types of bans. And T1, however, Damwon on their other hand, banning Jinx and Ziggs, are really trying to put a hamper on the clean transition to 1-3-1. Those two having fairly strong wave control as well as turret taking means that siege options, diving options, or side lane options become very, very limited. Rounding out the draft, however, Damwon picked the Kiana and Gragas. All right. Which, again, indicates more dives, skirmishes, and choke fights. Things that are around the inner parts of the jungle. That's still consistent with the rest of the draft. It felt, even though the champions themselves were not predictable, the roles these champions picked up still were. Well, as T1 on their end pick a Lucian Lulu bot lane. A Lulucian, if you want. God damn it. So, to me, that just indicates that they really need a strong early lane bot duo, and that T1 are probably going to be splitting themselves up in terms of gold allocation, because Lucian requires early focus, but because they're playing a topside focus composition, they might hold some harder times. But, so long as they keep up the fast tempo that matches the kind of composition they have, they shouldn't have a big problem. Now, as we enter the game, the early part of it is fairly uneventful. And T1 can make up much of their early game weaknesses thanks to the matchups that they drafted, but uneventful nonetheless. Damwon are playing the Vision game also fairly well, and Canyon helps Showmaker get the first blood, and Owner gets 1 in return. T1 are not letting themselves just give up Herald this game and are first to the play. And this is just a pretty sloppy setup from their end, and winds up just donating the neutral to Damwon. No one is making huge moves, but the setup is also non-stop from either side. T1 should be more proactive, but find Damwon hard to engage on at this point. Damwon not letting them ever give the chance to engage on them. And across the map, Faker at this point twice in a row, as well as Gumayusi, get caught, letting Damwon to use the Herald mid, secure the first Drake, and while T1 barely answers the first turret, it's 13 minutes in the game, and Damwon have a 1k gold lead and the pace of the game. Now, T1 are having a hard time keeping up the pressure and pace. As turrets get equalized with the second Herald, Damwon have kept control of every neutral and lane matchup, as Faker is 2 levels down and 40 CS to boot. He cannot match side lane assignments, any lane assignments alone, and it makes it harder to answer any kind of approach that Damwon brings up to them. Granted, Ghost is in a similar situation in terms of their CS, but it doesn't stop the fact that at least the levels are being kept up, and Faker can't do anything with it. Now, Gumayusi, at some point, trying to gain control back, oversteps, gets caught, leading to Showmaker getting a triple kill, and at 21 minutes, after the triple kill and securing the particular leads they get from it, solo kills Faker afterwards is 6-0-1, Faker 0-4-0, Damwon are 4k in the lead and full control as we enter the late game transition at 22 minutes, with T1 wanting to scale against a team that has arguably significantly better scaling, even if neither of these teams picked scaling teamfight compositions. Now, this current map state means that Damwon could hold mid turret and river control 3v5, with Khan taking a tier 2 bot, Canyon securing the soul point, and at this point of the game, it's now more about how cleanly Damwon finishes the game. This is one of those stomps that are don't look like a stomp off the first look at it, but each detail that you look at it more and more, the worse it is. Because they get a clean ace at 25 minutes, secure Baron afterwards, and this is a point where Damwon, if they focus on cleanly closing the game out, which they should at 9k lead at 26 minutes. This is what it looks like to balloon a lead. And this is the only time this kind of situation happens in this series, which is really unfortunate. An efficient Baron from Damwon, taking down top and mid-hand Hibs, transitions to the Soul, and secures the win condition for the game. And as T1 can barely leave their base with a crazy end fight and a clean ace, Showmaker ends this game 11-0-3. And Damwon cleanly closed the game and tied the series up 2-2. And we hit silver scrapes. This is do or die. T1 can't play harder to execute styles of compositions. They need to pick teamfight compositions, not only that are comfortable for them, but that you can clearly tell how they're supposed to approach the teamfight with it. They thrive in terms of control, and given how much that Damwon also thrives with control, it's hard to see them get this kind of setup ever again. Both teams are likely to choose 5v5 compositions that hinge around strong setups, but different kinds of setups. And honestly, the series is incredibly close. It's game 5. T1 gets side selection. They pick blue side. All side selections were blue side selections. Okay. So T1 on the red on round 1 bans. They ban all the side lane options that would exist. LeBlanc, Jarvan, and Ryze. They really want to avoid a very strong 1-3-1 composition. And as Damwon, however, they ban Lee Sin, Yumi, and Twisted Fate, ban skirmish options. And for many of the casters talking about, they let Aphelios go. Okay. Kimayusi took a strong Aphelios. Um, I wanted to see how that would turn out in terms of team fight composition. I don't think that the Aphelios alone was it. I think it really needed to hinge on a composition with strong team fighting options. And they picked, literally on round one, an incredibly scaling options that came with it. Kennen and Jin Zhao are great supplements to this kind of champion, and we're already on a good start for T1. Damwon on their end, I think they're picking something a little unorthodox, only slightly unorthodox, with the Graves, Ziggs, and Rakan on their first side, indicating super safe bottom lane. Already knowing that they had given up Aphelios right off the bat, they were like, we're going to play safe bottom lane. But they're also indicating either a 1-3-1 or a 1-4 composition with the Ghost being alone for the wave clearing. That's what they're indicating at first. And as the round 2 ban come around, they banned the Lulu and Thresh, which is anything that would help keep the Aphelios safe in terms of the laning phase, and also during the team fights. While T1 banned away the Kiana and Kassadin. The Kiana makes sense from the previous game. Really would help to avoid any particular early jungle skirmishes that would be a hamper. And the Kassadin struck me as they were expecting scaling and solo killing in the late game from Showmaker, and they wanted to avoid it. But they didn't ban a Zoe. So T1 round out their composition with a Nazir Zillion, and they already had success with Zillion, so it doesn't surprise me that they're ready to go with it again. They still stick to a very, not like super niche setup for their team fighting, but it's still very situational and very specific. So, like, it's strong scaling team fighting, but it's also, like, a lot harder to execute than if they had a Leona that was still open. I'm just saying. Well, on the other end, they picked Talon and Zoe, and I'm not a big fan of the Talon here because it doesn't have the same kind of strength early, and it requires it to like have really gotten the momentum for it. And the Zoe is it's all of the mid laners playing Zoe in this tournament right now have been like solid. So we head into the game 5. Safe starts. All around. Safe. We're going to be safe. Nothing being risked in this 5th game. It's totally fine. But lanes are trading back and forth. And T1 gets first blood on top side. All the while, Damwon Kia have strong vision and control and have tracked Water everywhere. And teams are matching each other with map movements fairly consistently. T1 ended up securing the Herald after some pretty shaky setup, and Damwon avoid contesting in any particular situation with poor vision. Shortly after, though, Kana has a bizarre flash moment and dies. Pressure's palpable at this point. Damwon keep finding picks and are punishing some sloppy movements around the map. They get the first Drake, and as we enter the mid-game transition at 12 minutes, even if it feels uneventful, there's still a 500 gold lead for Damwon here, and it's still anyone's game. Now, the vision game out of Damwon this time, garnering a whole lot of advantages, and it's increasing the pressure so nicely. This is the best vision game I've seen in a long time. Khan oversteps a little bit, though, and gets picked for trying to proxy farm his Graves. And then Damwon with Ziggs end up getting the first turret regardless, and are ahead of the curve of T1, but T1 are able to secure the Herald still regardless. Now you can tell that both teams are a little antsy and are trying to avoid mistakes at any given twist and turn. Damwon's vision, again, incredible. It allows them the full control of any of the Drakes and prevents T1 from being able to use their only consistent engage tool, as Kana keeps having to use his ult defensively as he keeps getting caught under vision over again and over again. Now, Damwon are slowly ballooning gold, but not efficiently. And as they are trading up, or as they aren't trading up, or at least not enough for a 1k gold lead to mean much at any time, or at this time at least during the game. And since Damwon are the team with the tools to be proactive first, T1 just end up taking all 3 outers, limiting the impact of Ziggs and Zoe. And as we enter into the late game transition at 23 minutes, gold is even. T1 have played waves better, Damwon played the neutrals better and have the soul point, and T1 get a small, solid team fight win, but not enough to gain anything else. End up with their 1K lead. And so you can see here that T1 end up becoming the more proactive team, but Damwon are doing much more for the setup, and it allows them to keep the pressure at any given point. I cannot kid you. At this point of the game, I'm literally just there, like, I could not tell who was gonna win. Neither side engaging completely, as each team is incredibly solid at disengaging. And as the clock ticks away, Damwon need to get something done that's moving the game forward. They do have control of the Drake Pit, and it means that T1 have to set up Baron and force them to answer, but they didn't set it up properly. And the vision game from Damwon allows Canyon to just assassinate one-shot Warner. But he does sacrifice himself. And because of it, Damwon end up getting Soul, Mountain Soul, and T1 have no ability to answer with a Baron at this point. This hold on neutrals from Damwon means that any effort from T1 to control the lanes is starting to become less and less effective. It's starting to become more mute. They keep trying to play around this Baron, and Damwon, who actually set up the vision already, punished T1 and managed to ace them and rid the Baron buff completely. Yeah, T1 secured the Baron, but they get aced. No Baron buff. And they almost close out this game. It was this close. Gumayusi saved it completely. Gumayusi and Warner together saved this particular game for just a small amount of time. They only have one turret left at 32 minutes, and it's one team fight or nothing. Despite this back and forth, despite whatever leads on any given side had been taken, one team fight. And when the game came down to it, it was a coin flip at Elder. Damwon had done everything to set up neutrals so well, and yet still allowed so much space for T1 to be able to go in and possibly steal it. It gets stolen. No, it doesn't. No, it gets secured by Damwon. It's a clean ace, and it's the closest best of 5 that I've seen since MSI Finals against Damwon. And T1 loses the game. Damwon wins it 3-2. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of my favorite best of 5 series. I kid you not, like, there should be no doubt in most people's minds that, like, this probably was the grand finals. This is the day that the world champion was decided. And it's hard to, like, look at the situation and go that, like, where could one team improve over the other? I think Damwon gives a lot of open opportunities for a lot of other teams to go through things and, like, contest. But it's also the first time that we've seen Damwon actually put under the situation where they've lost games and they're behind this way. You've had moments where, like, teams manage to get leads ahead of them, but Damwon catches back up, so on and so forth. But there's clear moments of weakness that were shown in this particular series from Damwon that means to me that, like, even if they have a solid grasp of their approach, there's some decisions that are being made that leave much to be desired in terms of risk. And T1 on their end, however, they skip steps. And they don't skip the obvious steps. They have strong vision control, incredible map movement, but the nervousness means that, like, they'll have laps in judgment where all of those things go off to the wayside. And there's incredible coordination from both of these teams. That's something that wasn't talked about, but, like, there's incredible team fight coordination between these teams, doing some incredible 5v5s with compositions that don't work like super well with them. No, this was cool. This was an incredible series. And I can only think that Gen G and EDG are looking to their series tomorrow trying really hard not to think about who they're going to face in the finals if they win, going they have to finish the finals, and not getting slightly discouraged seeing how dominant both of these teams played. Because this is absolutely bananas. Shout out to the entirety of the T1, because like I'm, even though my Pickens literally is like, oh, Damwon for sure is gonna win. Confidence, 100% confidence. I thought that this was either gonna go 3-0 either team. Whoever was the first team to win, I was like, it's 3-0, easy peasy. Connor, completely right, thought this was going to be a 3-1, 3-2. And you know what? To him. Credit. Beautiful. This is this is a masterclass in really evaluating who your team is going to be, who you're facing off against your team, and trying to find picks that are unique in the meta, that function in the meta, but only function specifically to those teams and their styles. Because Zillion and Maokai both being picked twice, and both having their like a 50-50 to their win rate, sours it a little bit, but they had moments where it really changed the landscape of how they were fighting, how they were approaching the early game. There's like a lot of minutia or minute things that are happening in this series that are frankly incredible to watch. And if I don't rewatch best of fives very often, but I think I might watch this one. I've never felt so tense having no stake on either side. I'm fans of both of these teams. Either of these teams going through, I would have been happy. And I was nervous the entire time. I don't know. Yeah, that's yeah. With that, you guys let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of this series? Because I thought this was fantastic. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. I really appreciate all of you who watch it all the way to the end. It really means the world to me. Tomorrow is the penultimate best of 5 of the tournament, with Gen G versus EDG, where we're going to find out our second finalists. And it's going to be Halloween night, so let's hope for some spooky choices, and maybe they pick Halloween skins for all of the games. That'd be fun. But yeah, with that, I'll see you all tomorrow for that series. Bye for now.